Thanks to new evidence of Noah's Ark. Researchers say they have 3D images of what they believe is the Ark in the Ararat Mountains in Turkey.
He says the ship was 515 feet long, and that matches the biblical account of being 300 cubits.
Something shocking was found inside Noah's Ark, hidden in the mountains between Iran and Turkey for thousands of years. Explorers have been drawn to this ancient vessel, inspired by the story of Noah, who, according to legend, saved his family and numerous animals from a massive flood. Recent excavations at the site have revealed evidence of a large-scale flood from the past, along with something extra that gave explorers the worst nightmares. But what exactly has been found inside that is causing such alarm? Let us explore why everyone is terrified, and no one wants to enter Noah's Ark. Science, scripture, and the story of survival. The site, named Durupinar after its discoverer, has long been of interest to both believers and skeptics. According to stories shared across Christianity, Judaism, and Islam, Noah built the ark to save his family and every animal species from a devastating flood. The measurements of the site are similar to those described in religious texts, about 515 feet long, 85 feet wide, and 49 feet tall. This congruence has been both a point of validation for believers and a subject of debate among skeptics. Recent digs at the site have revealed materials that some interpret as evidence of a massive flood from millennia ago. However, the scientific community is urging caution, advocating for more thorough studies before drawing any conclusions about the site's significance. Despite this, the buzz around these findings has permeated the media, sparking a wave of excitement and curiosity. This enthusiasm isn't confined just to the remote mountains of Turkey. It has also sparked a large-scale recreation thousands of miles away in Kentucky, USA, through the Ark Encounter theme park. Led by Ken Ham and the organization Answers in Genesis, this park features a full-scale model of Noah's Ark, aiming to blend religious storytelling with entertainment. The park itself is vast, covering 800 acres, far larger than Disneyland, and attracts around 1.5 million visitors each year. It features exhibits that they claim are based on historical facts from the time of Noah, mixed with high-tech presentations intended to make visitors feel like they've stepped back in time. However, the park's mix of educational content and entertainment spectacle has not been without its critics. Its exhibits, which purport to show life surrounding the biblical flood, often mix scientific assertions with creative storytelling, blurring the line between educating about history and promoting religious doctrine. This blending of fact and fiction in such settings sparks ongoing debates about the proper role of such institutions in educating the public about science and history versus promoting specific religious views. Ken Ham's vision for the Ark Encounter extends beyond just recreating the Ark. He plans to add more biblical settings, including a replica of the Tower of Babel and an imagined version of ancient Jerusalem. These expansions are designed not just to entertain, but to educate visitors on biblical history through immersive experiences. For example, one planned attraction, reminiscent of Disney's Haunted Mansion, will take guests through various historical scenes, enhancing the educational aspect of the visit. Despite its draw and the wonder it inspires, projects like the Ark Encounter highlight the tension between historical myth and verifiable fact. They prompt us to consider how we intersect science, religion, and entertainment. As the park grows, it continues to introduce new features, like an indoor area for petting animals, a seasonal light display, and a bird aviary, ensuring it remains a dynamic place where biblical stories are brought to vivid life with modern technology. Debates about big projects that require lots of money often lead to strong opinions from many different people. To bring these big ideas to life, a lot of money needs to be spent. This money often comes from selling special bonds, and local governments usually help out by reducing taxes and improving the area to attract more visitors and investors, blending economic gains with improvements for the community. Meanwhile, far away from these business dealings, discoveries near Mount Ararat are stirring up traditional beliefs held by both Jewish and Christian communities about Noah's Ark. Both religions share the story, but they often disagree about what it really means and how important it is. Historically, figures like Flavius Josephus show that early Jews and Christians really believed in the Ark's existence. However, Today's scientists usually reject the idea of a worldwide flood or a real ark, suggesting instead that local floods might have inspired the story in areas like the Persian Gulf or the Black Sea. These discussions about Noah's Ark often lead to broader conversations about the relationship between Christianity and Judaism. These discussions cover not just the Ark, but thousands of years of shared history, which has sometimes been peaceful and sometimes not. These interactions are often examined in detail, especially significant events like the Holocaust, which reveal deep disagreements and different interpretations of religious texts. For example, studying parts of the New Testament, like Luke Acts, shows that Judaism is depicted in complex and indirect ways. These interpretations are heavily influenced by the personal beliefs, cultural backgrounds, and historical periods of those interpreting them. As researchers and historians dig deeper, they often find evidence that might support or challenge the traditional views of these stories. This ongoing revision of historical views is part of a larger conversation between Judaism and Christianity about their shared but distinct pasts. This conversation gets even more complex when it involves discussions on the concept of covenants in sacred texts. The way covenant is understood varies between the Hebrew Bible and the New Testament, showing how the interpretation of religious promises can change and adapt over time. These theological debates aren't just academic, they also reflect broader concerns about the continuity of religious teachings and who is included in divine promises. They raise questions about whether these promises are meant to last forever, and whether they are meant for specific groups or for everyone. Let's explore how old stories continue to shape our beliefs and understanding today. The global legacy of flood culture. As religious leaders, scholars, and theologians dive into these complex debates, they must deal with the intricate details of religious teachings and historical contexts. Their work shows the ongoing human effort to understand and connect with a past that is constantly being reinterpreted through the lens of current understanding and future hopes. Thus, the examination of and debates about Noah's Ark are a small part of a much larger, ongoing conversation about religious heritage and interpretation. These discussions are crucial not just for understanding the past, but also for shaping how these ancient texts will influence future generations. Flood stories are found in many cultures around the world, each adding its own unique details, but sharing a common theme. A huge flood wipes out most of the world, but a few people are saved to start things over again. These stories often include powerful gods who decide to flood the world because they are unhappy with humans. The survivors are usually chosen because they have special qualities like being good or wise, or sometimes simply because they find favor with the gods. One of the oldest of these stories is the Eridu Genesis from ancient Mesopotamia, which influenced many other flood stories in the region, including the well-known tales in the Epic of Gilgamesh and the Old Testament's Book of Genesis. These stories emphasize lessons about being grateful to gods, remembering their deeds, and showing humility. As we look at different cultures, we see similar themes. In Greek myths, Deucalion and Pyrrha survive a flood by floating in a chest to the top of a mountain. In Hawaii, Nu'u builds a large canoe and survives a great flood, landing on Mauna Kea. The Epic of Gilgamesh tells a similar story to the biblical tale of Noah, where both feature a god or gods deciding to wipe out humans, choosing one family to survive, instructing them to build a huge boat, and saving various animals. Another ancient flood story is the Atrahasis Epic, which predates the Gilgamesh tale. It shares many similarities with both the Gilgamesh and Noah stories, including God sending a flood as punishment, a few people surviving, and the world being repopulated after the flood. Both the Atrahasis story and the Genesis flood story include specifics like a warning about the flood given 7 days in advance, the building of a boat, and sending out birds to find dry land after the water recedes. Despite their ancient origins, these stories resonate because they address universal human concerns about divine justice, the fragility of human societies, and the possibility of starting anew after a catastrophe. They convey messages about the importance of living in a way that pleases the gods and the consequences of failing to do so. In the biblical narrative of the flood, the focus is on the sudden and terrifying judgment brought upon the unprepared. It highlights the fate of those who ignore divine warnings and are caught off guard, contrasting their fate with those who are part of Noah's family, who who survive protected and safe. This stark contrast serves to teach a moral lesson about the rewards of righteousness and the perils of disregard for the divine. These narratives also explore themes of human vulnerability and the powerful, sometimes capricious will of the gods. They show that humans are at the mercy of forces far greater than themselves, and they must navigate these dangers with wisdom and moral integrity. Flood stories reinforce key societal values: obedience to the divine, moral conduct, and the virtues of foresight and preparedness. By reiterating these themes across various cultures and epics, they serve as a reminder of what it takes to survive in a world where divine forces can bring about massive changes at any moment. In this way, flood myths serve not just as cautionary tales, but also as foundational stories that help to shape the moral and ethical framework of a society. They remind us of our smallness in the grand scheme of things and encourage us to live in harmony with the greater powers that govern our world. Through these stories, we learn about the resilience required to overcome great disasters and the importance of starting afresh with a clear sense of purpose and reverence for life. The story of Noah's Ark is a favorite in many cultures, not just in the Bible. Similar stories about massive floods are told around the world, from Mesopotamia to China to Greece. Each region has crafted its own version of a great flood, perhaps keeping old memories of real large floods alive, or simply using these tales to explain big natural disasters that once seemed too large to understand. For example, the Epic of Gilgamesh, an ancient story from Mesopotamia, features a flood very similar to the biblical account. It tells of a single person or family chosen to restart humanity with the help of a large boat built to carry them and a variety of animals through the disaster. This story theme repeats: good people, chosen by unpredictable gods, given a chance to cleanse the world and start fresh. The Atrahasis, another ancient Mesopotamian tale, adds more details about the gods' motives and actions during the flood. These ancient stories may vary in details and the messages they convey, but they all show how different cultures have tried to make sense of natural disasters and divine intentions. Interestingly, there are actual geological events that support the idea of massive floods. For instance, the flooding of the Black Sea around 7,500 years ago is a well-documented event where the sea level rose dramatically, likely inspiring flood myths. Similar changes in ancient river valleys in Mesopotamia could also be the real events behind these stories. Even though no evidence supports a worldwide flood like Noah's Ark, regional floods in history might have sparked these lasting stories that are crucial to the cultural identity of many societies. These stories help us understand how our ancestors tried to explain and cope with their environment and their beliefs about a higher power. In the biblical version, Noah is portrayed as a good man chosen by God to build an ark. This ark saves his family and pairs of each animal species from a divine flood meant to cleanse the earth of wrongdoing. The story is about more than survival. It represents a moral and literal new beginning. Next, we'll examine a modern tale that brings ancient stories into today's discussions. In Search of the Real Noah's Ark. Ronald Eldon Wyatt, an enthusiastic American, claimed in 1986 to have found Noah's Ark at a place called Durupinar. He was passionate and convinced many people in religious communities. However, he was not formally trained as an archaeologist, which brought criticism from other experts who questioned the accuracy of his findings. They pointed out that he was not the first to identify the Durupinar site, and his lack of qualifications made his conclusions less credible. Despite the controversies, Wyatt's discovery sparked considerable interest and debate, showing how eager we are to connect historical and religious narratives with physical evidence. This story highlights how excitement can sometimes lead us to jump to conclusions without sufficient scientific backing, illustrating the complex relationship between faith, history, and the pursuit of knowledge. The Durupinar Formation, located on Mount Tendurek in far eastern Turkey, has sparked considerable debate. Unlike Mount Ararat, which has been searched extensively but only yielded trivial finds like small wood pieces, Durupinar offers a fresh perspective on where Noah's Ark might have ended up. The persistent lack of significant discoveries at Mount Ararat raises questions about its legitimacy as the location of the Ark, despite its traditional standing in religious texts. Some researchers remain skeptical about the Darupinar formation, dismissing it as a mere coincidence that it resembles a ship. They argue that it's nothing more than a natural part of the landscape. Nevertheless, this hasn't deterred others from considering it a plausible site for the Ark, pointing to the need to re-examine long-held beliefs about Mount Ararat being the definitive resting place of the Ark. This ongoing debate also delves into interpretations of ancient scriptures. There is a theory that Ararat might not refer to a specific mountain, but to a larger region, which could include Mount Tendurek. If true, this would broaden the potential geographical scope for the Ark's location. Additionally, there's speculation that the Ark could have been physically moved from its original site to where it is now, whether by human hands or through natural geographical shifts over time. Such discussions reflect a broader human quest to connect religious stories with specific physical locations, an effort that blends scientific inquiry with spiritual significance. People are drawn to these discussions not just for their historical implications, but also for their impact on contemporary faith and understanding of divine narratives. The story of Noah's Ark, with its themes of survival and divine command, is a pivotal lesson in many religious traditions. It transcends mere historical interest, prompting both believers and skeptics to ponder deeper questions about obedience to divine will and human resilience. It serves as a powerful narrative handed down through generations, influencing a wide array of cultural expressions and helping to shape societal values around perseverance and moral integrity amid adversity. Furthermore, the tale resonates with similar flood stories found across various ancient cultures, including those in Mesopotamia, Greece, and Egypt. These stories typically feature a massive flood sent as a punishment from the gods, with a selected individual or family tasked with preserving life and restoring humanity. They share common themes of destruction, rebirth, and the cyclical nature of life, which appeal universally to human societies. While the actual location of Noah's Ark continues to elude discovery, the search itself, and the discussions it generates, illuminates much about human nature. It shows our desire to link tangible evidence with spiritual teachings and our fascination with ancient narratives that address universal challenges. This quest, though often fraught with disagreements and unverified claims, also fosters a deeper understanding of how historical, cultural, and spiritual elements intertwine, shaping not just beliefs, but the very quest for knowledge itself. The idea that many different cultures have flood stories could mean there was a big flood long ago that everyone remembers. Or it might just show that people all over the world use stories to make sense of scary things like huge floods. Two famous flood stories are Noah's Ark from the Bible and the Epic of Gilgamesh, an even older story from Mesopotamia. These stories are a lot alike. Both have gods mad at humans, a big boat to survive the flood, and birds sent to find dry land. When people found the Epic of Gilgamesh and saw it was so much like the Bible's story, it made them think about where the story of Noah came from. These old flood stories might be linked or might have influenced each other over time. Both stories not only talk about gods being angry and a few people being saved, but they also teach lessons about how to behave and respect nature and the gods. The idea is that the gods save those who are good, like Noah and Utnapishtim from Gilgamesh's story. These stories tell us being good is important if you want to survive big disasters. In these stories, the Ark is described as a huge, strong boat that could hold lots of animals and food. It's almost like a floating house. This big boat floating on the floodwaters becomes a symbol of hope and new beginnings. After it rained for 40 days and nights, Noah sent out a dove, which came back with an olive leaf. This was a sign that plants were growing again and life was returning. When the floodwaters went down, Noah, his family, and all the animals left the Ark. This was not just about surviving, but also about a promise from God. The rainbow that appeared was meant to show that God wouldn't send another flood like that again. This part of the story is meant to make people feel safe and to show that God is merciful. While these stories are full of important lessons about life, morals, and the need to care for living things, they also show how stories can shape and support the values of a society. In Christianity, Noah's Ark is also a symbol of salvation and points to the work of Christ. The story of the Ark teaches about kindness, the value of life, and caring for our world. Now, let's see how history and belief often blend, influencing each other in fascinating ways. The tireless search for the biblical flood. Even though these stories teach a lot, the actual Ark hasn't been found for sure, despite some people saying they've found it in places like Turkey. This adds to the ongoing discussions about whether these stories are meant to be taken as true events or if they're more about teaching lessons. These discussions show how flood stories are more than just old tales. They're a way for people to deal with big, scary natural events and to pass on important lessons about how to live and treat each other. The stories are adapted over time to keep fitting with what people believe and value. This makes the stories not just about the past, but also guides for living today. They help people understand their world and what's important, whether or not the events in them really happened exactly that way. Mount Ararat has always been a hotspot for explorers looking to find Noah's Ark. The team called the Noah's Ark Scan Project, using advanced 3D scanning technology, claims to have found something significant buried in the Turkish mountains. This discovery has sparked interest among those who study the Bible and scientists, as the shape found buried seems unusual and deliberate. The site was first discovered in 1959 by İlhan Durupınar, an officer in the Turkish army. Since then, it has been a topic of ongoing discussion and research. The people working on the Noah's Ark Scans project say they have found a formation in the mountains of Turkey that matches the descriptions of Noah's Ark from the Bible. On another front, the Bible Archaeology Search and Exploration Institute suggests that the Ark might have landed on Mount Elor, which spans from Armenia to Afghanistan. They support their theory by pointing to what they believe are ancient bits of wood and remains of sea creatures found high up in the mountains, places that are now very far from any sea. These finds are exciting to some because they seem to back up the story of a massive flood, like the one described in the Bible. Yet, there's a noticeable amount of doubt among some scientists about these claims. They point out the lack of solid methods to confirm these findings, and how often the results are seen through the expectations set by religious and cultural beliefs. Despite these concerns, these explorations still receive funding and public attention, possibly because they tell a fascinating story as much as they conduct scientific research. The idea of finding something as well known as Noah's Ark could make people overlook some of the logical issues with the findings. This combination of using scientific tools to look for evidence mentioned in religious texts often leads to a confusing mix where hard facts and beliefs are hard to separate. As more details come to light, one has to wonder if the excitement around these missions is driven by real discoveries or just by our love for a thrilling story of adventure and the unknown. Furthermore, the ventures into these mountainous regions are not just about uncovering historical artifacts. They also stir a lot of public and media interest. This can lead to increased tourism and local engagement, which isn't necessarily bad, but it shifts the focus from sober scientific discovery to entertainment and spectacle. The line between conducting rigorous research and producing a narrative that captivates the public's imagination becomes increasingly blurred. As teams continue to probe these ancient lands, the blend of historical curiosity and modern technology brings numerous challenges. Each claimed discovery needs to be examined with a critical eye, considering the potential biases of those making the claims. It's essential to navigate these stories with a balance of hope and skepticism, understanding that while the search for Noah's Ark is a captivating story, it is also a complex field fraught with interpretive challenges. The Noah's Ark Scan project is often said to be very important, mainly for people who are interested in religion or history. Supporters claim that these discoveries could offer a real connection to one of the most famous old stories, weaving together elements of faith, history, and science. This combination might teach us a lot about the past, yet it's hard not to wonder how deep this topic really goes. Interestingly, after World War II, Leonard Simmons, a British soldier, found many old artifacts in Iraq. Among them was a special tablet from Assyria that challenges our usual picture of Noah's Ark. According to this ancient writing, the Ark didn't look like the boat shape most of us imagine. Instead, it was round, much like the coracles that were common on the rivers of Mesopotamia in ancient times. These coracles were essential for survival. They were the main way people could survive the floods described in both the Bible and ancient stories. Their round shape helped them manage the wild waters of the flood, allowing people to live through what might otherwise have been an overwhelming disaster. The old tablet, thought to be about 4,000 years old, does more than just change our view of what the Ark looked like. It also strengthens the link between the well-known story of Noah's Ark and similar flood stories from Mesopotamia. These findings encourage us to think differently about the stories passed down through generations, suggesting that they might be more about human resourcefulness and survival than miraculous events. One could argue that while the discovery excites those who enjoy connecting historical dots, it also prompts skepticism about the true nature and purpose of these ancient stories. Were these flood narratives simply metaphorical, meant to teach lessons about human endurance and the need to overcome nature's challenges? Or were they dressed up with the allure of divine action to give them more cultural significance and moral authority? As we continue to explore the layers of history, combining scientific discovery with analysis of faith and cultural storytelling, it becomes clear that the tale of Noah's Ark is always changing. New discoveries and ongoing cultural shifts influence how we interpret these ancient stories. This ongoing evolution in understanding shows how complex and intertwined our views of history, faith, and science can be. With new insights, let's consider how recent findings challenge and deepen our connection to these ancient tales. The eternal story of Noah's Ark. Irving Finkel, a diligent worker at the British Museum, successfully translated an ancient tablet that held a story very similar to the biblical account of Noah and his ark. This tablet suggested that, just like in the Bible, animals were brought onto a giant boat in pairs to survive a massive flood. This discovery didn't just give us a new idea of what the ark might have looked like. It also highlighted how long people have been telling stories and passing them down through generations. Finkel's work brought new attention to the flood story, sparking interest in building a replica of the ark, using the old instructions to test if it could actually float. But even as this project was being considered, Finkel himself doubted whether the ark was real. He saw the story more as a long-lasting legend, woven into our culture and traditions, not as a factual event. The story of Noah's Ark is more than just an old tale. It speaks to deeper themes like being saved, receiving help from a higher power, and promises being kept. It touches on human vulnerability and the instinct to seek safety when facing destruction. The story remains relevant, not because it might be historically accurate, but because it deals with big questions about survival and finding meaning in times of crisis. This renewed look at the Ark, prompted by Finkel's translations, does more than just delve into ancient writings. It challenges us to think about the purpose of myths and the importance of storytelling in human society. It prompts us to consider the accuracy of our ancient stories and why we hold on to certain tales that speak of divine help and moral rescue. It's fascinating to see how ancient stories have shaped our understanding of human nature and the divine. These stories, passed down over thousands of years, continue to influence our cultural and spiritual beliefs today. They not only teach us about past people's beliefs and values, but also connect us to a broader human experience of seeking understanding and comfort in the face of unknowns and calamities. In essence, Finkel's interpretation of the tablet invites us to view these ancient narratives through a critical lens, questioning the literal truth while appreciating the deeper meanings and the role such stories play in human development. As we consider the possibility of reconstructing the Ark, we're reminded of our continuous search for connections to our past and the ways in which ancient wisdom can inform our current perspectives and challenges. The story of Noah from the Bible isn't just about surviving a massive flood. It's filled with themes of divine intervention and mercy. The Ark is more than a simple boat. It's a symbol of God's care and a path to safety. God chose Noah to avoid a huge disaster, a gesture of kindness towards him and all life forms. This tale sets the stage for a later promise of salvation through Jesus Christ, acting as a covenant between God and humanity. The Ark serves as a sign of protection and deliverance, shining like a beacon of hope amid chaos. The ongoing efforts to locate the remains of Noah's Ark and the studies surrounding it merge religious faith with the excitement of historical exploration. This combination of religion and science gives us insights into our shared past, showing how ancient stories still influence us today. They remind us of common experiences like redemption, new opportunities, and the continuous search for divine kindness. The story of Noah's Ark speaks to people of various religions and backgrounds, continuously teaching us about faith, righteousness, and the enduring love of the Creator. As the focus turns to what some believe to be the actual location of Noah's Ark at the Durupinar site in Turkey, away from the traditionally held Mount Ararat, a compelling story unfolds. This site, hidden away in tough terrain, drives us to reevaluate our interpretations of ancient stories and our understanding of history. How do these findings change our views on the past? How do they affect our ongoing conversation about what we consider historical facts versus matters of faith? The tale of Noah's Ark goes beyond just unearthing an old boat. It's about examining our beliefs and the complex ways our histories and legends are intertwined. This investigation not only appeals to those interested in the intersection of theology and history, but also urges us to consider the stories we accept as true and the evidence we need to support those beliefs. What do you think? Are the discoveries at Durupinar proof of Noah's Ark, or mere geological formations? Like, comment, and subscribe to join the debate.